This is Seventh Generation Warfare, and I'm your current host, John Nelson. In this episode, we'll be looking at my experience growing up in a large extended family. Seventh Generation Warfare is about securing the will of our children, and I hope in doing so that it creates strong extended family networks. It's ironic that my experience growing up, I grew up in a large extended family and ultimately went out on my own because I thought in order to secure my own will as part of my sixth generation warfare fight that I needed to go and make it on my own. So by the end of this video, I will share with you some of the lessons I've taken away from my childhood through self reflection. I hope it will be beneficial to others, and I hope that I invite you to come on and share your upbringing experience and allow you to share the successes and failures of your family and allow others to learn from your family. I grew up in Connecticut. My father was one of 7 children. All the boys, there's 5 boys, 2 girls in my dad's family. All the boys, all my uncles, I should say, lived in or around my neighborhood at some point growing up. The 2 aunts seemed to move away before I really remember them being in the area. But because of this, five families plus grandparents and plus some great aunts and uncles led to a very populated extended family, and there's a very strong sense of family in the area in which I grew up. I had cousins that were right around my age, right down the road. I was one of 4 children. We were all going through schools to get the public school together. So everyone knew the Nelsons. Also, my dad and my uncle started a roofing business, which me and my cousins worked for at various parts in our childhood through high school in the summers and such. And every uncle of mine worked on the Nelson side, worked at that in that family business at some time. So, and also because of that, doing roofing in a pretty small town, that was another way in which my family's became renowned in the town, and so everyone knew the Nelsons. Being with the large family and the great aunts and uncles and stuff, there's every major holiday had a gathering, mostly at the grandparents' house, and then the Fourth of July parties were extremely large with over 100 people in attendance, which was lots of friends of extended family and such too. There was growing up a sense of Nelson pride, and I don't want to project onto what other people in the family thought because I haven't necessarily talked to them, but I know that my cousin, who was my age, also shared my same name, was very much into the Nelson pride. I was into it. I thought there was something great about being a Nelson in this town. I should also mention that although not all Nelsons, I was the 4th generation to graduate from that high school, so the family did go back several generations. But as I grew older, this sense of family slowly started to change. I think it changed for me faster than it did for some others, but also it changed for me slower than some others, and we'll discuss that. So I went to college about 45 minutes away. Didn't really want to go to college, didn't really have a plan, but my father had the goal of sending all of his kids to college. He didn't want them to end up roofers like himself. It's unfortunate because one of his sons is currently roofing, and I didn't end up too far off the mark. I do residential remodeling. So, but the efficacy of the college is not the point of this video. We can look into whether or not wishing something like a college degree is a good decision for seventh generation warfare in a later video. But when I was in college, I did start to do traveling. In college, I traveled to Europe twice. Also did some extensive motorcycle trips across the country and such. But traveling to Europe really started to broaden my horizons and show me the world, which, aside from my siblings, not a lot of my extended family had done much traveling. So the new world, the new understanding of the world that was coming into my mindset was starting to put me outside of that which my relatives could relate to. After college, I didn't really see much of a path forward. There was always the call of the family business, but I wanted something more for my life. I thought that I could do more, and not really having many options, I joined the military, which is why I feel like I can start a channel called Seventh Generation Warfare, because I was trained in the military. But uh, I would like to say that joining the military, I hope in your seventh generation warfare fight that you do everything in your power to keep your children from being pawns in somebody else's fight. The military, in my opinion, is not how we secure our own will. But maybe I'm making blanket statements like my father made about needing his kids to go to college. So we'll leave it at that. But with the military, I did have two uncles, and my grandfather had been in the military. So there was a sense of military support in my extended family. And it's always a question of mine when looking at a family with who supports a family that supports the military and also has a family member in the military is, did that person join the military because they had the support of people who believed in the military, or did the people come to believe in the military because they had a family member in the military? It's kind of like a chicken and egg question, and it's not an easy thing to unravel. Certainly, it's probably a little bit of both. That being said, I personally had no real interest in the military. Also, my mother certainly did not like the idea of me going into the military, but yet I still did. I was willing to go be a pawn in somebody else's fight because I had nothing better to do, which is a sad position. So after I came back from the military, I moved back to Connecticut about 3/4 of the way through my military time, or perhaps it was when I was in Afghanistan. I started thinking fondly of my upbringing and the place I grew up in Connecticut. And certainly, it was better than Afghanistan. So I thought that I could give it a second go in my adult life, and I thought I could make it. That it'd be a sufficient place to live that fulfill I could find fulfillment in the area in which I grew up. So I moved back to Connecticut and I did not find it. While I was in the military, I really started to educate myself. Not only did I have the now military experience, which several family members did not have, and more traveling, this time to a third world country such as Afghanistan, but I had also done other traveling while I was in the military. I did a trip to Japan, um, but I also started to educate myself, and I had a bit of a philosophical awakening. And I also found a new political philosophy that was very much counter to my family. So when I moved back, not only was my mindset in a different position than my extended family with like the travel and understanding a broader understanding of the world, uh, perhaps that sounds like an egotistical thing to do. I certainly didn't have the the years of experience that some of my aunts and uncles had, but I did have very different experiences. Uh, I so along with having different experiences than them, I also had different beliefs, and this kind of it quickly started to feel like I was oil and they were water, or vice versa, and we just weren't quite mixing quite well. There was scuttlebutt, or you know, talk amongst the extended family about what had happened to me when I was in the military. People being concerned about my new position, philosophical positions, and such, and I just was like a square peg trying to fit in a round hole. It wasn't working out. So there's other reasons, not being able to find romance and stuff, but ultimate and not able to afford a house in that area. So ultimately, I decided to leave Connecticut, move to New Hampshire, and I tried to make it out on my own, which I think I have fairly successfully, but without the support of that extended family network. Uh, and it's been good. Circling back a little bit, years after I moved to New Hampshire, I talked earlier about how the aunts were never really around. I learned that one of my aunts that never lived in Connecticut, or not in my memory, she found the family's relationship to alcohol to be toxic to her character, and so she left. She did not like the family's acceptance of alcohol, and I can't say that that's the only reason, but she did share with me that that was a major contributor in her moving. Also, one of my uncles who lived in Connecticut at some point in my childhood, he had been in the military, moved to Connecticut, started a family, and he left, oddly enough, to rejoin the military. Um, but one of his kids, who's about 10 years younger than myself, he moved to Connecticut a few years ago and promptly moved away about a year and a half or so after he moved to Connecticut. Uh, I think led by the idea that it was a Nelson Mecca. Uh, it was the promised land of Nelson dreams, and maybe I'm exaggerating, but he found that the idea he had about the Nelson extended family was not what was actually in reality. And so obviously I would need to have much more meaningful conversations with many more extended family members to see what their relationship was to the extended family as it was getting to its peak and as it was coming down off its peak. But I find it hard to believe that any of them don't see the contrast between where the family was about 25 years ago to where it is today. But I can't say much more on that without putting words in people's mouths. I think the degradation of the family was pretty slow, but I think I think there was no real, at the end of the day, that the glue holding the family together was not really all that strong. And so here are some of the takeaways that I want to share with you about my upbringing in a large extended family, and some thoughts on how they can be corrected for the hopefully large extended family that I create for my children, grandchildren, and great grandchildren. So, first, family bond and proximity is not enough to keep a tribe together. A functional family that cares for each other, like a nuclear family that cares for each other, will tend to stick together. But as the children start to have their own children, their care is naturally going to go to their children. And so there's not really anything else there just by default. You have to build some other things into it, and that's what we're looking at in seventh generation warfare, of how to build a tribe. Next, family business is certainly beneficial. It was nice always having that family business that you could go and work for, and employment was always very accepting. I mean, as a teenager, I thought I was getting paid well, but compared to what my dad would have had to hire a laborer for, I was a steal as a laborer. But you need more than one family business is what I wanted to get at. Multiple family businesses, building in that sense of entrepreneurship or that go-getter attitude, that allowing people to feel like they're making it on their own and that they're not just gonna conform or take the easy path or just fall into the family business. So building that sense of go-getter entrepreneurship, I think, would help a tribe tremendously. It also would diversify the incomes to the extended family. Instead of everyone in the extended family getting their income based off of one business, if you diversify and start multiple family businesses, there's more wealth coming into the family. And you can also benefit each other in more unique ways if you have businesses that complement each other. Next, family needs to be resilient and or accepting of new ideas brought by its members. So I talked about travel and philosophy and broadening my understanding of the world and not feeling like I could share it with my family. It served to alienate me. So the option in my family appeared to be either don't better oneself, by gaining new or different experiences from the family, or just be prepared to feel isolated and not understood. And the capacity of human experience is so broad that I don't know that you can ever say that people will be accepting of all new ideas, because there's always going to be things that we're just not in position to conceptualize. But I think if you use reason as a guiding factor, that any new philosophical ideas that come can be at least understood and not penalized for having. And then as far as like the travel experiences and things like that, I think building in a sense that there's much in this world to learn and experience, and having the joy of being able to live vicariously through your family members, I think that could be a great benefit and not necessarily a curse. So if people were more inquisitive about each other's experiences, the experiences for which they have not experienced, I mean, I think that can be a great bonding thing for a family. Next, providing value, helping each other out. As a tribe, as an extended family, you need to add more value to each other than strangers, acquaintances, or friends would. And this was certainly the case in my childhood. I felt that my extended family added great value to my life. But as I became an adult, and part of it is because I was an adult, I'm expected to make my own way in the world. But it was kind of it. I no longer felt the level up effect of having all the family near, and ultimately I decided that I could live a more fulfilling life by going out on my own, away from the family. So some major ways in which you can add that value and help each other out as a family, as an extended family, would be in housing, allowing in-law apartments, or even just renting a room from each other, or allowing somebody to park a tiny house on your property. Anything to do with housing, because it's a huge expenditure, hard to get started in the world. Allow people to save up so that they can buy their own house. Helping people work on their houses when they buy them. Also with careers, so not just a family business, but helping people secure jobs by offering up your social network. You know somebody in some professions looking for help, and you have a family member who could fulfill that job. Helping each other, and I think as you get more of an entrepreneurial spirit in your family, helping each other as more of a mentor or business coach type relationship, and helping people to grow their business, or even just climb the ladder at the business they're at, helping in those sort of ways. Relationships, helping people to secure romantic relationships. I'm in favor of. I was 26 when I met my wife. I don't regret any of my decisions, and I don't think in the military being moved around a lot was a good time to find a good, meaningful, deep relationship. But hopefully you can, in seventh generation warfare, hopefully you can find relationships sooner and start those families sooner. And extended family networks could be great for helping to speed that process up. Also, childcare is another great way to add value to your extended family, because it takes a village to raise a child, and hopefully you have family that are willing to help you do that. So the last piece of advice I would like to give in regards to my experiences growing up in a large extended family, and then going out on my own and now trying to seek and build a strong extended family again, is you have to nip vices and sinful behavior in the bud. You have to build in a sense of wanting to strive for moral excellence and trying to get the most out of life. So I mentioned my extended family's relationship with alcohol, and the fact that one of my aunts, one of her major reasons for leaving the family was because of the alcohol. If people think that they can live a better, more fulfilling life by leaving the family, then your family is on a major decline. And ultimately, that's why I left. And now my cousin that I grew up with has left. There's very few of my siblings or cousins still in the area. So what was once a thriving family network in that town seems to be getting pretty close to extinction. And instead of a strong unit moving through, or a strong unit with a position on some key terrain in one area, where we've been disrupted, we've been isolated, we've had to splinter into smaller units, and we're all kind of making it our own way. So I hope to one day again build a strong extended family network, and I hope that my reflection on my upbringing will help me do that. I hope that this video was interesting for you, that it's giving you some things that you can think about. If you have done reflection on your upbringing and your family's input into your upbringing, and you have stories you would like to share, good or bad, I'd be very much interested in having you on the channel to discuss, as I think there's great value that we can get from sharing these things with each other and learning the possibilities of family structures that are out there, because we only know our own. We only know how we were raised. We know a little bit about how some of the people we're really close to, some extended family or some really close friends in childhood. We got to see a little bit into how their houses work, and now we get to see how we're structuring our own houses as we have kids of our own. But it's a real benefit to be able to look into the houses of people you don't even know. And that's what I was trying to do with this video, is give you a little bit of peek into my family. So if you think you have things that you could share, I'd like to have that conversation with you. Anyways, thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, and share this video. This is 7th Generation Warfare, and I'm your current host, John Nelson. Have a good night.